All right, thank you very much for everyone coming by here. Last session before we adjourn for food, happy hour, and traffic home. This session is survivability in the gap, planning for when, not if. We thought it was very important to take a DoD view of what we're doing with SaaS. Here's our safe harbor notice, so everything we say may or may not be held against us later on, okay? And our agenda, and we're going to kick right into it. So I'm going to give you quick cliff notes from kind of our position, the way that we see this unfolding. Our adversaries have gone to school on the American way of war. They understand our reliance on various networks, both in cyber, in space, and in the information domain. They've also spent hundreds of billions of dollars to try and hold those networks at risk. And the attack surface is too wide to defend every point of it. So you have to make sure your networks are resilient so that you can fight through the inevitable disruptions that are coming. Now, on the national strategy front, really our goal is to have integrated deterrence in a domain of competition, fighting through those planned disruptions in a distributed manner. And where are we at today? This is my opinion. We have just a little bit of catching up to do. So as we think about where we start as far as disruptions and how we should think about this, I think a very straightforward, common sense approach in the Pacific region is this map right here. So right here, this is fiber optic cables running through the Pacific. They connect the US and some of our other friendly nations. Just imagine if someone just were to cut those lines of communication, us as a SaaS company, you as a paying customer, how do we continue the fight? So the adversary knows that whomever shoots faster and hits better will win that fight. And faster, more accurate is based on having information superiority, decision superiority, which then gives us battle space superiority. Now, I might be the last Marine to have used one of these books in combat, sadly, right? This right here is a memo, message book. So when I was dug into defensive positions in Afghanistan, well away from friendly resupply, we had to conserve batteries and fuel, and so we only had a 5-minute comm window every hour, and that's where we'd pass information back and forth. But other than those 5 minutes, unless we were in contact, so in a gunfight or something, we used runners to pass messages all the way through the company level. And now I'll say this was a much made fun of practice that we would rehearse in the United States. You know, people were like, "Well, what are you on Guadalcanal? Like, what are you trying to do?" But when we were in Afghanistan and we had to go to being conserving everything, because every time you send resupply, they would get attacked, right? So we wanted to conserve that. We were able to still continue to operate. Now, I would argue that today, teaching people that skill, so that shorthand message writing that I had to learn, sorry, is the equivalent of showing someone today this phone booth. And I'm not talking about the telephone itself, but I'm talking about the book that you see in that picture. Trying to explain to someone how to use a phone book to look up a name, a number, an address, or a location. And better yet, this thing right here, right? I was at a basketball game a couple weeks ago, and they had these college basketball stars that are probably going to go to the NBA. They gave them this phone, and they said, "Okay, do you know what this is?" Most of them did not know what it was, which surprised me. But even more impressive, none of them knew how to actually make a phone call on this thing. So teaching someone how to use a rotary phone is a little scary. Now, take a look at this. This is not a Navy ship, but this is a Canadian commercial vessel. This diagram shows all information piping within a ship that's connecting all the systems. It tells you how that ship performs. I would say that if you tried to switch from systems running this, telling you and giving you information to make decision, and you switch to the grease board, you would probably have a very ineffective vessel not able to perform its job. We think the same holds true today with the types of systems and platforms you have in place today. You need a digital system to be maintained as a grease board. So this is our view. Our view today is that you have connectivity. We have what you would call a kill chain in order to affect your operations. But in that domain of competition, which exists today and will become starkly aware for all when this thing kicks off, we have to assume that at some point that communication is going to cut. When that happens, what do your systems do, especially if it's a SaaS-based product, right? We have to be able to operate lights on, lights out without hindering you. So for us, we want to have our instances still be able to operate locally, capture information as best as possible, and you have, in effect, a digital grease board that still captures all that information. Because all this data that's coming through, the human mind can't handle that problem set and still make effective decisions. You need this in order to maintain your awareness and make those decisions. And then as you reconnect, that data gets uploaded back to your larger command element or whatever so that you can continue to make decisions. We want that transition to be something that is seamless, that is practiced, and that's the capability that we're working on delivering, which you're going to hear today. Now, how do we get there? We get there by finding a small use case that matches that problem set and try to help solve for that. And that's where I'm proud to say that with the Chaplain Core, we're able to actually take that and exercise that on ships today. And with that, I'll pass it to Chaplain Quinn from the Navy.
Yeah, thank you. So good afternoon, everyone. I'm Chaplain Jeff Quinn with Submarine Force Atlantic. I've been working on our data analytics project for the last couple of years. A quick history real quick. The Chaplain Corps actually got interested in data about 12 years ago when we finally realized that if we all started recording with the same definitions and the same business rules, our activities, we could actually use that for one of our core functions, which is advising our commanding officers on the morale and religious needs of the personnel. So we started and we put together what was a typically amateurish effort. It was an Excel spreadsheet laden with a bunch of macros that we tried to use to aggregate data. It didn't work very well at all. And so we went to a solution that was hosted by G2 on the G2 server at CNIC. And it was called the Command Religious Program Analytics tool, which if you imagine those numbers, CRPAT, quickly became known as the crap app in the Chaplain Corps. And it was a fitting moniker because what ended up happening is we had a tool that was really designed as a longitudinal study tool. It was trying to suck up every possible bit of data you could imagine. And it was on a platform that required a CAC to log into, and it had to refresh every time you went to a new screen. There were something like 800 total fields you could possibly fill out. And half the time, G2 itself wasn't working, so you couldn't get to the app. And the other half of the time, our connectivity where we were was such that we really couldn't use it with any kind of alacrity. So as just an example, I was underway on Abraham Lincoln and tried to use the app to just record one day's activities, and it took about 2 hours to do that. And I stuck with it because I was bound and determined to finish. But 2 hours out of every day obviously is untenable for us to be able to feed that information up. And beyond that, it was available real time to a few users, but not to me as the actual chaplain entering it. I couldn't download my own data to share with my chain of command. And it was very partial because a lot of people just stopped using it. So the data we got had a lot of holes in it. It was just not as useful as it could be. So when we started talking with ServiceNow, we all got together, did a little hackathon. We got a bunch of chaplains in a room, and believe it or not, we were able to take the crap app and just duplicate it on the ServiceNow platform with a lot of help. But chaplains and RPs are religious program specialists, our enlisted assistants. We did this together in 1 week. We got something up and running that actually worked. Where we are now is we've had enough time with the system as we built it to understand that we still had too many fields. We were still asking some of the wrong questions. And when we started working with the Digital Transformation Office to get aligned with the efforts in Jupyter and the destructive behaviors dashboard that's being built there, then everything started to flow together. We've since simplified our fields, and we are about to launch part 2 which will actually get us to where we want to be. And one other quick aside that's interesting from a community perspective. If you can think, if there's any community that needs to be dragged into the 21st century kicking and screaming, it's probably chaplains, right? We're still operating out of a 16th century mindset in some cases. So, but here we are, and in the last 2 years, we've actually had half a dozen chaplains go to the Naval Postgraduate School to do systems analysis degrees. We've got religious program specialists who are enrolling in data analytics courses and really starting to embrace the project management aspect of their role. So this project is having a transformational impact on us as a chaplain corps. And oh, by the way, we will have the opportunity to use this on canes on the ships, on iPads in the field, and via URL or via app. There are a bunch of different ways to use it so that everybody can get their data up and we can actually do our job of informing people without worrying about the technicalities.
Awesome. I'll turn it over to Adam and Eric, and they'll walk you through kind of where we're taking it from here.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, as the chaplain mentioned, the way that we came about with the solution that you're going to see a little bit later today, what we've been deploying we're starting to deploy across the fleet, has really been a marriage of capability that we've been trying to address for many, many years, but also that simplistic use case that could get us actually on there, provide value for chaplains in the fleet. But just a refresher about DDIL, right, in case anyone hasn't heard the term. This stands for Disconnected, Intermittently Connected, or Low Bandwidth Communications. This is a very regular thing that we see in the DoD, particularly in the Navy, because as you can imagine, right, I'm a ship, I'm in the Indian Ocean, I have no connectivity to the shore. I'm largely doing everything I need to on that ship, and of course I will have some bandwidth to do certain things, but certainly not enough to do everything. And we'll have a little discussion about that in a minute. But DDIL in the Navy stands for this idea that sometimes it's intentional and sometimes it's unintentional. An intentional use case would be we're going out to do an exercise, so we've got to pull our comms down. We call that River City. You might hear someone say in the Navy say, we're going River City. That means no comms anywhere. Everything stays in the ship. So that might be like an exercise that you're doing, but if you're, an unintentional might be, a cyber attack. It could be something where it's weather related, right? And I just simply don't have a line of sight bandwidth or anything that I can connect to a shore. And so DDIL environments happen all the time, and we just wanted to address it. I use this slide a lot. My background is PEOC4I, so I came from the PMW 150 side of the house where we build, manage, deploy applications that ride on the Navy network, on ships. Over the last 15 years, those Navy networks have been consolidated into something called canes. It used to be ISNS, ADNS, and canes. So now they're shoring up to provide a standardized network across all different ship classes to save money and everything else. But if you look at this and you think of like that canes network as a very valuable asset, it's used for a lot of different things. And although it does have a bandwidth, right, what is it really being used for? So if you're looking at the boat here, you've got intelligence users, you've got warfighting users, you've even got some business users that are also creating and also consuming data on that ship. When they need to send anything to the shore, usually that bandwidth is going to be scoped down to something very small when it comes to workflow and tasks, right? It's usually being used for intelligence and warfighting information and position and navigation and timing and things like that. That's really where the priority chain exists. So from a ServiceNow perspective, it's important that we operate on a ship with very, very limited bandwidth, because that's what we're expecting when we get on there. I know the Navy is coming to address some of those bandwidth concerns, but that's kind of where we're at today. So from a ServiceNow at Sea architecture perspective, we've been using this quite a bit. So just to kind of look at this, I'll start in the dead center as your ServiceNow authoritative data source, right, for workflows and data would be something in the GC series or the NSC, our IL4 or IL5 cloud, or potentially even an IL6 cloud that we're going to address in the Navy, but certainly exists in the other DoD agencies today. And on the right-hand side, you've got your connected, dedicated, connections. You're looking at, NavWar, NavSea, the shipyards, the airfields. These are shore-based commands that will need constant connectivity to that IL4, IL5 instance. But on the left-hand side, this is what DDIL is, right? I've got all these ships. In this case, it's very Navy branded, but again, this addresses needs across all the DoD. But I've got my ships. Each one of these ships has been deployed a ServiceNow self-hosted platform. There's been discussions about, hey, how thin can we make this? How, can we just do a mid-server? We just decided it's probably best just to deploy the whole platform, because as you can imagine, we started with the Chaplains, a very awesome, simplistic workflow. But imagine the possibilities of being able to do discovery on a ship, understanding what that ship's CMDB looks like, and then being able to transport that in a low packet way to a cloud where it can be deconstructed and understood and worked on by agents on the shore. We used to address a lot of CAS reps, casualty reports in PMW 150, and it took months to get them addressed. And I think a concept like this makes it a lot easier. Just really quickly on the cloud on the left, deployed on the ship, this slide is actually a couple years old, but we have been tested on a Snowball Edge. We've been tested on Azure Stacks. For the Navy, for our purposes today, it was just way easier just to go on the infrastructure. That's already there, and that's Canes. So just a bit of advancing my slide. There we go. I just didn't push hard enough. How did we get here? And so, as I mentioned, we've been trying to address disconnected operations since I joined the company in 2016. It wasn't until 2018 that I worked with one of Eric's counterparts to deploy a very, very simple way of addressing this idea of, can I have a self-hosted instance and turn any communication off and then have it sync a couple records just to show it off, because this is, I think, what the Navy needs. And so we built that in 2018. It was in 2020 when we met the chaplains and said, wow, we've got a use case where people actually need this on ships, and we've got this prototype that we built, so let's merge these two and go out together and make it happen. So in 2022, we've got some partners at CDW that have a Canes accredited lab. This exists in San Diego, where everything is completely fine-tuned exactly as you would expect on a Navy ship. So they can do really interesting tests with regards to watching data synchronization and being able to throttle bandwidth up and down based on, hey, we're going down to a fixed 56K link. Can records still get off the ship? And it was very successful and it was very eye-opening. We were able to test the Chaplain application there for that. And then came the next big step, is addressing this with PMW 160. So PMW 160 is the Program Management Warfare Office that manages Canes. So to do anything on Canes, if you want to ride on Canes, you want to install on Canes, you have to go through a very rigorous testing process to do that. So in 2013, we wrapped up that test. It was very successful. A couple snafus here and there with regards to security and our thing getting wiped out and having to go back and retest it. But that happens. But happy to announce that a couple weeks ago, we got to an LRIP state where we installed on the Iwo Jima. We had gone through a couple different platforms based on availability, when they were important, which ones were the best ones to install on. But that happened a couple weeks ago. That was in the Iwo Jima. So exciting. That's in Norfolk. We intend to go full rate production. We're working with the Navy right now, Fleet Forces Command, to identify what ships and when, to not only get the disconnected operations piece on, but of course deploy also the Chaplain application. So that's there. And then we expect the O&M. Funny story about this, when we were leaving the Iwo Jima, the XO and the CO heard what we were doing and immediately just jumped into this conversation about, we should talk about sailor onboarding. Like, we didn't position that, we didn't throw that in their faces. They actually came and said, you're doing workflow on our ship? Like, think of the use cases. So that was something that we're gonna address here very shortly and get back to the UO and talk to them. So this is me and Eric in Norfolk. This is there's the EWO is right over my head. But it was a great day. It was a great couple days. We had a lot of ups and downs.
It's also a picture we weren't supposed to take.
I think I was almost outside the gate at that point. But yeah, so it was good. It was a good little way to celebrate our victory there. All right, so we're going to switch over to the desktop.
See if I can see.
And we're going to give you a quick demonstration. Now, this is not specific to the Chaplain application. This is more disconnected operations as a whole. So you're going to see a lot of more kind of ITSM information. Okay. I'm going to pause this as we go through just to make sure we're on time. We got 15 minutes. So we look like we're on a good glide right here. Okay. Oops. Let me make sure this is functional. Is this showing? Okay, great.
Yep.
Okay. Two things real quick. We're going to be showing two different instances, and this can get a little confusing. I couldn't do one on each screen, so if you're looking at the hovering right now, I'm showing a shore-based instance, a cloud-based instance. I'm flipping over to the next browser here, and we're showing the Eisenhower, CVN 69. This is online. If you ever get lost in this demo, just take a look at the upper left-hand screen, and you'll know what instance you're looking at, but this is a ship-based application on this one.
So what we're looking at here is a global map of our entire operation. This is showing us our CONUS fixed bases, as Adam alluded to earlier, shoreside. And then if we look across the globe, we have ships that are out for us. We have forward operating bases. So this isn't just a Navy thing. It's for everything at the edge. So the general idea behind all of this is that at everywhere at the edge, they are running ServiceNow for them. They are doing their mission-facing work for them where they need it to be. On the off chance we hit a DDIL environment, they can still operate as if nothing has changed. Everything continues status quo for them, and we'll see as we go through this, in a green scenario like this, we have real-time synchronization happening between the forward, the edge, and home. When we go dark, for whatever that reason is, we'll see that's going to happen here today as we go through this. But again, the point is we operate as we always have, nothing changes. But when we come back online, now HQ starts to get all the data back. We get our enterprise view back into our global operations, and also comes to the forefront is what the edge needs us to do now that they can tell us they have stuff going on.
Exactly. So we're going to start off, we're at the shore-based instance. We can call this HQ or Fleet Forces Command as you're seeing it. So this would be almost an aggregation of all the data coming off the ships or bases or whatever else. We can see that this one's online, and just kind of scrolling across the top, we're looking at very high-level metrics around tasking, so critical tasks, open tasks, anything that's on hold. These are, again, aggregated numbers coming from the ships. And we're also seeing some announcements on the right-hand side of the screen as pertains to what the ships are doing. What are the announcements that are happening there? This is where Fleet Forces might want to look at this and say, great, it's good to know the Canes is upgrading, and we've got some rust issues impacting the fleet, we understand that. As we scroll down, I used to work on a program called Maintenance Figure of Merit. It's an MFOM program that was basically designed to create a score per ship based on its readiness level across the warfare. So is it cyber ready? Is it maintenance ready? How are we doing, and do we need to address it? So now we're moving over to the map here, and we're going to do a couple things. We've got some dynamic filters in the upper left hand as far as show me just the ships or show me just the bases. This is just something that's quickly flipping back and forth to show the data that I want to see. We're going to leave it on ship and station here to get the whole spectrum. Those icons, by the way, those little pyramid icons, those are ships driving towards you. So it didn't resonate when I first looked at it either, but it looks good. But now online and offline, these are all online. If it's got a green pin on it, that means it's active. We're actively receiving information. Later in the demo, you're going to see pins go red, and that's the way that you'll know that we have a disconnected state. So we're going to do a lot of our demonstration out of the Persian Gulf. And so this is where, and this is all fictitious, by the way, none of this is real data, but I don't think the Eisenhower is in the Persian Gulf, but if it is, CVN 69, right? We can see that it's a ship. We can see that it's online. And we can understand what they're doing on that left-hand column, talking about Link 16 network is down, or Compose 5.0. These are Navy applications that a sailor would probably report, and it's something that needs shore visibility. And we can sort things and show things by severity, state, whatever it may be. So I think at this point, we're going to switch over to the ship instance, okay? So now we're going to look at, again, the upper right left-hand corner, you're seeing the little graphic of the ship. We are an online capability right now, so everything that we're doing on the ship is being synchronized over. There's a long discussion about, do we sync everything? Do we need to sync everything? We'll leave that for another time. In this case, we're just assuming that we're going to sync all the task-based information. So as you can see, there's some important actions going on the Eisenhower. We've got the Canes upgrade. We're doing a deck sweep here in a little bit. Now, again, I talked about the synchronization dashboard. Don't worry so much about incident problem change. We just did this for the demonstration, but also think of this as like HR cases and payroll discrepancies and whatever else, security issues. But the idea of these three columns is if it's in the created update column, that means that data has been synced with the shore. If it's in pending create or pending update, that means I've been in a disconnected state, and all that stuff lives locally on my, my shipboard instance, but it has not completed a synchronization. So it's just a quick way of demonstrating, hey, when was the last time we've had a chance to sync up? So this is where it gets fun. We're going to take this ship offline, and we're going to do it by clicking that. Now I'm going to turn it over real quick.
Yeah, so just this is for a demo, right? We would not expect in real life for someone to have to click a button to take something offline. So I just wanted to make that clear. In real life scenario, right, this is designed in such a way that whenever the edge goes dark for whatever that reason is, everything Adam just talked about, and we're going to talk about here in a second, will automatically happen. The ServiceNow instance at the edge is designed to handle running offline and not synchronizing back. So again, just caveat, no expectation someone in the middle of some exercise has to go hit a button to turn this thing off. It's just going to do its job.
That's right. All right. So we are going to take that offline, and what it's going to do right now is it's going to do a quick refresh of the screen to show you that the ship is now offline. As far as Fleet Forces are concerned, I can't communicate with that ship anymore. It is offline. And like Eric said, I mean, we almost kind of expect the ship to know when it's offline. Like, they're going to be the ones that are going to be telling, hey, I can't receive information, or I can't send information. So a quick visual indicator saying I'm offline on my banner there. It's turned from green to red. If you remember a couple moments ago, it was green. And what we're going to do now is we're just going to simulate the idea of a sailor on the ship creating an incident. You guys have been probably, if you ServiceNow customers, you've seen multiple portals. Hopefully you've seen the Employee Service Center. But this is the way that we're going to have a sailor create an incident. Once again, it can be an incident. It could be an HR case. For this presentation, we're just doing sort of the ITSM route. But we're going to create an incident. And this is the out of the box, right? It's very simple. But I'm going to give this an urgency of medium. And as a sailor, it's actually high, because as a sailor, I work with an application called DSIGS-N, right? It's kind of a battle space awareness, critical application that they use, and it has gone down, or I'm seeing issues with it, so I gotta log this. So while I'm typing this in, you'll see the search results underneath, and this speaks a bit to the AI capabilities of incident deflection or self-help, right? The idea of, I'm going to do a quick search across knowledge bases, service catalogs, make sure there's nothing in here that the sailor could use now before, submitting an incident. And so here's our resulting record. We've got an incident record. We've got the description. Probably the most important thing is the message that's going to be highlighted in a second here. It's going to tell, we talk about a lot about the user visibility and the user understanding where we are in the workflow. This is saying, hey, look, we understand, we've got this has been recorded, but we're in a disconnected state right now, so you're not going to get fleet shore-based visibility. And right now, going back to the sync table, you'll see that this is in a pending create state. So again, it lives on the ship and it is not synchronized as of yet. So we're going to do some magic here. For me to send one record over is woo, but in reality, it's probably going to be 30, 40, 50, 100, 200 records. So you notice that we filled up the boxes here. And as we turn this instance back on, you're going to see the records flow out. So we're back at the button, the main button that will probably never happen. But for demonstration purposes, we're bringing the ship back online. We're going to start synchronizing. We're going to go back to the sync dashboard. And again, you're going to see records just sort of flow out. So just to remember 854, it's going to start with the pending creates. And it just, while this runs, we get a lot of questions about what about file sizes and attachments. We actually did test quite a bit of this at the CDW lab, and the records flew out. I talked about the way that they could throttle bandwidth. And in really low bandwidth situations, the records would slowly go out, probably slower than this, but they do go out, and it syncs up flawlessly. So that number right there, that 78 above the ship, has been updated based on the numbers that have been sort of carried out. So I'm almost done. We're wrapping up. This is back at the base level Fleet Forces instance. At this point, I want to go in and make sure that DSIGS record came in, because I've got fulfillers or agents or specific mission owners that are going to help me with that actual bringing that system back online. And so there it is. It's been synchronized. And I'll pause it here because there is and we've got time. I probably could show it, but I do want to leave time for questions and answers. Maybe I'll just talk over it while it's finishing up here. There is a bidirectionality to this. It works both ways. We talk to the Navy a lot about it's great from ship to shore, But from a training perspective, it's one of the use cases. The Navy said, we want to take training content and push it to the ships. Can we do that? And that's what we're kind of showing right here. We're doing a quick update on the incident description, and we're going to push that back over to the ship, and the user that created that incident record will see that. It uses the exact same technology in both directions. We're not doing anything special in either one direction, so it's just a matter of looking for a system property that says, am I online or am I not online, and do what continue my workflows that way. So I will pause it there. I think we've got, if you want to kick it back over to the slide, there's one last slide. Oh, yeah, thank you.
No, that's our computer.
Yeah.
I worked really hard on this slide. Okay, guys. I mean,
Encore.
I had to.
This is where we expect an encore.
There it is.
No, in a minute, we're doing I don't know if you're seeing the same. There it is. Okay, we're not seeing it here, but it's there. A QR code. If you are interested in this, want to learn more, I mean, we'll do live demonstrations outside if you need to. We'd be more than happy to talk to you about this. Again, that was a very Navy-flavored demo, but I think this is applicable across all DoD, and we're also talking to even the commercial cruise lines about this as well. So it's getting a lot of visibility. But if you scan that, you'll be in touch with someone that can help triage to the right people. So I think with that, I mean, any final questions?
2 questions. How do you handle the avoiding unique number collisions between these various entities that are creating records offline? And I've got incident 1101 coming from 4 different places.
That's right.
Against the mothership.
So to that one, the way we're handling it today is when the record, whatever type it is, comes over from the edge in, we basically, it's appended, so to speak, with the source. So if you're looking at a master queue of incidents, it could be whatever number is dash Eisenhower, or whatever it is dash forward operating base. So that's how we're handling that part.
Does that get sent back to the remote instance, or do they still just work with their local number from this?
Yeah, so they're going to work with their local number. And for those that are familiar with how ServiceNow works behind the scenes, what has happened is we have sent the parent sysid to the ship, to the edge, so that when updates are happening back and forth, we know we're talking to the same records on both sides, and then we don't have that collision that could potentially happen.
The self-hosted environment that you're putting on there, is that in an appliance form, or have you considered that to where it can be used for other entities of us that
Yeah, so
deal with infrastructure?
yeah, 100%. So today, like Adam said, we deployed directly on Canes, which is basically a virtualized environment. Appliances are definitely something we've discussed on the table, and it's still just going to be self-hosted, pre-built, ready to ship at the end of the day. So yes, it has been discussed.
Yeah, think of this as V1, right? We're iterating on this. We want to, this is the first time we're sharing this with customers. What we want to do is come visit folks, invite us out, show us what you want to do, and let's talk about what makes sense. We want to start with the greatest breadth to be able to address anywhere you want to put this, right? And then from there, we feel like we're going to hone down to kind of what works best for everyone. Yes?
Can ships task other ships without going through the parent instance? So I'm saying from ship to ship rather than from ship to parent instance.
Yeah, I mean, we haven't addressed that. That's
I don't see why
great.
not.
There's no reason you couldn't. All we're really looking for is probably an IP address of the ServiceNow instance. So we got to give it a target to point at. But that's interesting. Yeah.
Any other questions? Awesome. All right. Well, thank you for coming out. And like I said, invite us out. Ask us questions. We want to come to where you are to see how this can best fit in for what I see as the coming fight. And there is no excuse for a company that supports our customers in DoD to not think about this stuff, not have an answer for something like this. We want to be held accountable when the time comes, and that's why we want to lean forward on this. So thanks for coming. Enjoy the happy hours and the food, and thank you so much.